Hello everyone, I am Surrenderlot Reviews and I'm back, and I'm ready to look at some more Beast Wars Transformers. But before I get started, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and if I can't convince you, perhaps this picture of my kitten will convince you. And, random fact about my cat society is that my cat claims he was the one who built the Eiffel Tower. But without further ado, let's get into this. So the first episode we're gonna look at is Fallen Comrades, where we actually get introduced to Tigertron, or more or less at the end, we get introduced to a new character. But without further ado, let's get into this. So the episode starts out with a stasis pod crash landing on the planet that, well, the Maximals and Predacons are on. And, well, both sides decide that they're gonna actually have to get the pod. But for the Predacons, they decide to do something a little sneaky, and the Maximals try to send their only flyer, Optimus Primal, to the stasis pod before everybody else, and well, he's gonna have a little bit of turbulence because, well, they shot him down preemptively. And so the Maximals are basically gonna have to double time it to the pod, or else the protoform inside could probably get pretty badly damaged. And the Predacons also have a bit of a sneaky plan because, well, Maximal base is gonna be pretty under-defended. Meanwhile, with the Maximals, well, they experience some slight difficulties from the Predacons because, well, they destroy the ice bridge that would have given them a nice little shortcut to the stasis pod. And meanwhile, with Dinobot, he gets a bit of an emergency message to at least try to help them. And Dinobot ends up getting Optimus Primal to more or less give him an idea to bounce a signal off the moon, or one of the moons, to the stasis pod to give it some instructions. And after experiencing some minor difficulties from the Predacons, well, he successfully does that, and they manage to get a signal to the pod. But the Maximals who are trying to get to the pod are kinda gonna have a few difficulties because the Predacons might actually get there first. And the Predacons do, in fact, get to the pod first. But luckily, Optimus Primal is fully repaired and ready to go fight some Predacons. And, the Predacons with Megatron end up threatening some Tigers, and, the Maximals are ready to surrender the pod until, well, this here happens.
What? It's empty. Where is the Maximal?
Right here.
Tigertron! Maximize!
Woohoo! All right! Let's do it!
Beast mode! Retreat! Retreat!
And Tigertron more or less agrees to be a part-time Maximal as opposed to joining them completely because his identity circuits were damaged and he kind of still feels more Tiger, and the Maximals accept it, and all's all that ends well, and they even get a free scout in the area, and the episode ends. And overall, I will say that I think that this episode's good. I really like how, basically it's kind of one of those, the Predacons more or less did some dirty tricks to get to a pod before the Maximals did, and, how the Maximals kind of more or less had to outthink the Predacons to more or less get the pod activated before the Predacons could, you know, make that protoform into a Predacon. And, I also really like how Tigertron kind of feels more like a, tiger than, you know, a Maximal, and I kind of like how, he's not like a full Maximal, but he is more aligned with them because, well, they weren't jerks to his friends. And, overall, I recommend this episode. But I think with that, on to the next episode, which is Double Jeopardy. And no, I'm not talking about that, the second round of Jeopardy. I'm talking about the episode where Rat Trap kind of gets his loyalty questioned a little bit. But without further ado, let's get into this. So the episode starts out with Optimus Primal and Dinobot going to investigate a stasis pod that came out of orbit. But unfortunately, the Predacons are already there and planning an ambush, and they end up getting the pod. And back at Maximal Base, people are suspicious that there might be somebody feeding information to the Predacons. Meanwhile, back at the Predacon base, well, Brilak Arachnia ends up coming out of the pod, and she is a Black Widow spider. And fun fact, she was actually modeled off of an Asian belly dancer, if I remember correctly. And, well, Optimus Primal tries to more or less prove that Rat Trap is, in fact, not a traitor, and, well, he sends him to go be on a dangerous mission. And, on said dangerous mission, well, he gets ambushed by Pterosaur, and, well, then this here happens.
Prepare to terminate, Maximal! Wait! I beg for mercy.
What?
Mercy? At what price?
You name it. I got no links with the Maximals anymore. I'm a free agent.
Well, finally a Maximal with logic circuits. Very well, I will spare you in exchange for certain considerations.
All right. What have I got to lose? I'll do whatever you say. I'll even become a Predacon.
Rat Trap? No, he couldn't!
Will you still defend your friend, or will you see him for what he is, a traitor?
You're a fine one to talk. Rat Trap wouldn't...
Meanwhile, back at Predacon base, well, Pterosaur decides to take this opportunity to, well, say that he's the captain now, and, deposes Megatron, and, the Predacons don't completely trust their, new team member Rat Trap, and, decide to also throw him in the brig, and, Megatron escapes from his prison cell because, well, he, kind of already thought of something like this happening, and, well, the Predacons aren't completely on board with Pterosaur, and, Megatron's gonna go try to take back power. And Rat Trap also breaks out of prison. Meanwhile, the Maximals are gonna basically go attack Predacon headquarters to, basically go ask Rat Trap why he decided to defect. And I quite like how, the part where Rat Trap, breaks out is done, where Rat Trap basically puts the, Maximal symbol back on. Kind of, makes it seem a bit like, he can't access some abilities unless he has the Maximal symbol on, and, basically does show that, yes, Rat Trap is in fact more or less the spy master of the Maximals, or I guess Predacons, and, kind of makes you question whether Rat Trap is, in fact, on the side of the Predacons, and whether he actually defected, or whether this is kind of just a plan done by Rat Trap and Optimus Primal, which we'll get into that later. Anyways, so Rat Trap gets to this console, and, does a few things with it, and, takes out a chip, which had a Maximal decoder, and, after a brief scuffle with, Tarantulas, well, he ends up, you know, getting back into the cage, and, then the Maximals end up attacking Predacon base, and, Megatron actually lets Pterosaur, you know, lead the Predacons into battle. And, well, the Predacons with Rat Trap and the Maximals fight. And in the fight, well, Rat Trap ends up shooting down Primal, and, just as he's about to, you know, kill Dinobot, well, turns out he ends up actually betraying the Predacons, and, well, the Maximals basically say mission accomplished and, get back to base. And then we get this scene here.
I will terminate the traitor myself.
No! Allow me to congratulate him. Well done, Rat Trap. You have the chip.
It's a Maximal decoder. They must have recovered it from a wreckage crash.
No wonder they hacked our communications. They were using our decoder.
You mean his capture, his betrayal, were all a setup?
Why didn't you tell us? We had to keep it a secret to keep his cover safe, especially during the battle, although you didn't need to make it that believable.
Hey, what can I say? I was trying to miss.
And overall, I will say that this episode's really good, and I really like how the episode itself and the operation that Optimus Primal and Rat Trap did was actually so believable that even somebody at home watching this episode would probably actually think that Rat Trap legitimately switched sides and joined the Predacons, just, you know, with subtle things like how he kind of looked like he was regretting his decision, or kind of like he had some reservations for joining the Predacons, but then just at the end where it's confirmed that, oh, this was actually just a operation done by Primal and Rat Trap, and I also really like how Megatron knows that, or more or less highly suspects that, yeah, this is really just a trick to, get something from the Predacons, and, how he basically just lets Pterosaur make a fool of himself in front of the rest of the Predacons, and overall, I highly recommend this episode, and I'll admit, when I was younger, and actually when I watched this episode like a few years ago, I, legitimately thought that Rat Trap actually did switch sides and join the Predacons in this episode, and, yeah, that was just how believable that this whole episode was. And I think with that, that's gonna do it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.